Hi, I'm James. Welcome to my grade Pre-1 test strategy and review. Today we're covering the Eiken exam, grade Pre-1. It's a pretty high level. It's usually reserved for high school students and above, but let's take a look. As with all the reading questions, you want to start with the words that are given. We have tender, rigorous, influential, as well as fictitious. It's really important to understand at least 50% of the words in the sentence. That really is helpful for you to answer the question, to understand at least 50% of these words. If you don't understand 50% of the words on this test, you need to go back and study vocabulary. It's very important. Next, after we understand the words, we will look at the sentence. Look for any transition words or any words such as however, but, although. So if you see a word like but, that means the words and phrase after are going to have a different meaning to what goes before. Okay? So this sentence one, a few characters in a new movie are based on real people, but, okay, so that's going to be real people is the word that comes before, but comes after. So it's going to be something different than real people. So that's what we're going to focus on. What word here that's given is different than real people? Tender, vigorous, influential, fictitious. One word here, hopefully you understand from the book genre, non-fiction and fiction. Non-fiction is true, historical or biographies. Fiction is make-believe, false, things that are made up. So the correct answer is fictitious. It has a very similar sound to fiction, okay? It's completely made up, fictitious. Number two, shrewd, defective, serene, classified. Again, you're going to have to understand at least 50% of these words to get the question correct. Let's take a look at the sentence now. To protect government secrets, high-level workers must complete a security check before they can view documents. So this is going to be an adjective to describe what type of documents. Well, who can view these type of documents? Well, people with high level of security check can review these. So something here has to deal with security or secrets. So I hope you know the correct word. Classified. Classified refers to information that's not available to everyone, only to a certain group of people who pass a security check. Question number three, we have words vacate, pledge, offend, squeeze. Again, hopefully you know at least 50% of these words. Rashid was hoping to stay in his university dormitory for 2 weeks after classes ended, but he was told that all students had to their rooms immediately. Again, we have a but. So the idea before that was Rashid was hoping to stay in his dormitory after classes ended. But that means he couldn't. Why not? Something or rooms immediately. He wanted to stay for 2 weeks, but he had to leave immediately. What word means leave? I hope you guessed vacate. Vacate means to leave. Sometimes you see in hotels or motels a sign that says vacancies. That means rooms that are available. So they had to make this room available immediately. Question 4. Harbors, defies, retains, and spoils. Ethan's wife believes their daughter. He often allows the girl to do whatever she wants, and he rarely punishes her when she misbehaves. So let's see. He often allows the girl to do whatever she wants, and he rarely punishes her when she does something wrong. Okay, so this is not a but it's an and. It continues on with the previous phrase. So she does what she wants, and even if she gets in trouble, nothing happens. So that means he's letting her do all these things. So what word means, to let someone, do what they want? Harbors, defies, retains, spoils. spoils. Okay, spoils their daughter. That's the correct word. Question 5. Tranquil, conceptual, disciplinary, discriminatory. 2 students were caught fighting in the hallway. They were fighting. They were sent to the principal's office for punishment. Punishment, that's why they were sent there. They were going to get punished. What word means punish? Tranquil is kind of peaceful, so not that. Correct word is disciplinary. That means they will be disciplined. They'll give it a certain level of punishment, maybe go to detention or leave school for a few days. Okay? Question 6. Turmoil, sarcasm, upkeep, heritage. These are the words available for the question. Let's turn to the question. A report that one of the company's products was dangerous caused in the office. Okay? Many employees were fired. Other workers worked nonstop to address the legal problems caused by the report. So try to imagine what happened. A report about a product the company sold was dangerous. This report caused something in that company's office. People were fired. They were let go of their job. Others had to work nonstop to address this problem that was caused by the report. So what type of activity do you think is going on in the office? Heritage, upkeep, sarcasm, turmoil. Turmoil. That means hectic situation. Things are in dire condition. Turmoil. Okay, question 7. Words: corridor, tag, triumph, clarity. Again, when you study the words, it's always good to listen to how they're pronounced as well. Okay, not just read them, but also try to listen to the new words if you're using a vocabulary book or an app. After the hockey team won the tournament, they celebrated there by going out to a local pizza restaurant. So a hockey team wins a tournament. So what is that called? They are winners. They have a winning feeling. They were, try to think, corridor, tag, triumph, clarity. Triumph. They celebrated their victory, their triumph. So in addition to reading these words, always look for the synonym of the words, the same meaning of the words, okay? Victory, triumph, that's the same meaning. Question number 8. Command, convey, install, prescribe. Please, my best wishes to your husband. Thank you, I will. He's away now, but I'll tell him when he gets back. So please tell, or please give my best wishes to your husband, right? Someone says, oh, I'm sorry I didn't see your husband. Please tell him I said, hello. Okay? What word means to communicate or to tell? Convey. Convey is the best way to ask someone to tell somebody something. So please convey my birthday wishes to your father. Okay? Please tell. All right, so that's the first 8. Let's take a look at the second page and see what we got. So the second page we're going to look at in just a second. Welcome back. We're at the second page now. Question number 9. We have strain, obedience, temper, odor. Angus, where's the terrible coming from? Sorry, Salma, that's the garbage. I haven't taken it out for a few days. Key is look for the word that's before this blank. The word is an adjective, terrible. That's something bad. That's the garbage. Oh, something garbage. Garbage has a terrible what? So terrible strain, obedience, temper, or odor. The word you're looking for is a word that has the same meaning as smell, but in a negative meaning. The best answer for this question is odor. Odor tends to have a bad meaning. So terrible smell from that wild animal has a bad odor. Okay? Question number 10. Densely, virtually, flexibly, suspiciously. After growing up in a small village, it was a big shock for Shiuri to move to a populated city like Tokyo. So key here is look for the words after the blank. Populated city. Population is the amount of people who live somewhere in a city like Tokyo. So you're comparing where she already lived was a small village, a big shock because it's a big populated city. So the word you'll look for is a lot of people together. That's called densely populated city. Okay? Number 11, charitable, numb, surplus, bizarre. Pedro has a way of eating waffles. Instead of using something sweet such as maple syrup, he likes eating them with mustard. So his way of eating waffles must be different because they use the word instead. So that means different from. So instead of, different from using maple syrup, which a lot of people use, he uses something like mustard. So very unique, not common. So what word here means unique or not common? Right, bizarre. Bizarre is not common, unique. Some people may say strange. Number 12, flock, knot, gleam, doom. Okay. Kevin could not untie the in his shoelace, so he asked his father to help him with it. So if you have something in your shoelace, that's what you tie your shoes with. It's called a knot. A knot in your shoelace. So he asked his father to help him. Number 13, dutiful, nutritious, stunned, cherished. Okay. There was a silence in the room after the company president suddenly announced that she was quitting. No one could believe it was really happening. So no one could believe something was happening. It was a shock. So think of a shocked silence. Everyone was, surprised, kind of what happened. The company president said she was going to quit. No one expected it. So what word means like a shock? Right, stunned. Nice. Okay. Question 14. Crawl, mourn, meditate, haunt. Is that mediate? Sorry, it's mediate. In one part of the cave, the ceiling was so low that Vikram had to on his hands and knees for about 10 meters. So let's think about a cave. What do you do hands and knees for about 10 meters? I could do yoga. You could pray. I don't know what else you can do, hands and knees. Or you can crawl. So the ceiling, the top of the cave was so low, he had to go on his hands and knees to crawl like a baby for about 10 meters. That's why I never do caves. I do not want to be crawling around in a cave. Okay, 15. Phased out, shook up, burned off, gave away. I can't believe the ending of the movie. Sorry, I thought you had seen it before. I thought you had seen it before. If someone had already seen the movie, then they know the ending of the movie. But this person did not see the movie. That's why she is upset. Why did you tell me the end of the movie? So tell someone, blurt out, without any warning. What phrase means that? Phased out, shook up, burned off, gave away. Think about how someone will say something without any idea, without any thought. Sometimes it's good. In this case, gave away. Gave away the ending of the movie. Told the ending of the movie. Number 16, live up to, hold off on, meet up with, and break it on. Daisuke's parents are very strict, and it can be difficult for him to their expectations. He needs to spend a lot of time studying to get grades that will satisfy them. So Daisuke's parents, strict. That means they're very tough. They want him to succeed and do well. So they want him to study a lot. And it can be very difficult for him to, their expectations. So they expect. So difficult for him to, He needs to spend a lot of time studying to get grades that will satisfy them. So they want his grades to be here, so he has to study really hard to get there. So what do you think? God, we'll give you a hint. Different for him to meet up with, hold off on, break in on, live up to. Live up to someone's expectations is try to, be a person that another person wants you to be. It's not always a good thing. Okay, so now let's take a look at the next page. So here we are, next page. Question 17. Happen upon, stayed off, sailed through, glared at. Though some of the other students found the class difficult, Deepak it easily. He was able to get a very high grade despite hardly studying at all. Good job, Deepak. So let's think. Some classmates thought the class was hard. Deepak was different. He thought it was easy. He was able to get good grades. So think about easily going through the class without much effort. Easily going. Like a boat on the ocean without a storm. Easily going through. You got it? Sailed through. Deepak sailed through it easily without any trouble or storms. Okay, question 18. Scratch out, win over, rack up, indulge in. Mark began his speech with jokes and funny stories to his audience, people who were watching. Once they were listening carefully, he began talking about what he really wanted to say. So he's trying to warm up his audience. He's giving a presentation. He wants them to feel comfortable, and he wants them to listen to him. So one way to do that is by you tell a joke or a funny story. So you want them to be on your side, so they will listen to you. So the correct answer is win over. He wants to win them to his side, win over his audience. Okay? All right, let's take a little bit of a pause and we'll come back with the passages. Okay, we're back. So this is the first passage of the Eiken Pre-1 exam. The first two are really not too difficult. The last ones are a little bit more difficult. So you want to really try to get all points on this one. I'm not going to read the passages fully. I hope you are able to download the past exam from the Eiken website. If you can do that, you can follow along. Hopefully you can see the screen. And if you want, you can pause this video and try to look at the screen as long as possible to understand what the answers will be for the different questions. So when tackling the passages, my first strategy is to read the title, Liberty Ships. If you have read American history, especially during World War II, this should not be new to you, but for many students, it may be fairly new. In that case, let's take a look at the first sentence. Before the United States entered World War II, it was officially neutral in the conflict. So conflict means the war. Officially neutral means they weren't involved, officially. The next word you see here is very important, nevertheless. So the word means like however, or even though. So they said they were this thing, but really something else was going on. Okay, so that's what nevertheless means. So Great Britain and other allied nations were desperate for aid to continue the fight against Germany. So in the form of steel, foodstuffs, and such other essential goods, the U.S. provided a lifeline. So they did a little bit of helping based using some type of assistance. So let's think. Nevertheless, it economically suffered badly. Doesn't really mention that. It did not help Great Britain. Its actions told a different story. It needed assistance. Well, it all refers to the United States, okay, because that's the noun before. So it's not going to be anything about the United States needing assistance or its economy was suffering. So the only possible answer is its action told a different story. So nevertheless, the United States did actually help. So before the United States entered World War II, it was officially not doing anything in the war. However, its actions told a different story. It actually did some assistance. Not fighting, but providing some other type of goods like food, steel, other essential items. Okay, so that's kind of how you want to tackle this. Typically, I say look at the questions first. That's actually a good idea. But also here, you want to read around the question. Read the first sentence around it, and then also read the sentence after, one or two sentences after as well. That gives you a better context clue what the possible answer will be. Here we have a question in the middle of the paragraph, towards the end. So what I would do is maybe look at here, start from this sentence. So no need to read the whole paragraph. And you never want to read the whole paragraph from beginning to end anyway. Just focus on the paragraph where the questions are located. Okay, so thanks to technology improvements, crossing the often rough Atlantic Ocean had generally become a less dangerous prospect for ships in the 1940s than it was just a few decades earlier, because the ships were better, they had more technology, better made. In wartime, however, so he was saying previously, crossing the Atlantic wasn't that hard anymore. However, this is a change now, the word. Liberty ships were slow, and German submarines patrolled Atlantic waters. Attacks were a constant worry, and some ships, along with their crews, were lost. Lost, they should be more direct. The ships were sank, and sailors died. That's what actually happened. That's what they should say, not lost. Okay, so wartime, however, so before there was no problem. Ships could cross Atlantic. Unfortunately, not the Titanic. It had some trouble with a big ice cube or iceberg. But normally, ships could cross Atlantic without much trouble. But now there is something different, however. So what's different? Crews had to be paid more. Doesn't mention. More ships were available. Doesn't mention. Ships only travel at night. Doesn't mention. Does mention a new threat appeared. Do you remember what the new threat is? German submarines. That's the new threat. Okay? Answer is 1. All right. Let's look at question 21. This was, again, towards the middle. So you're going to start with a sentence roughly around here. And since it's in the middle, you always want to look at the bottom too. So look at the sentence before as well as the sentence after to get a very good idea of the context. So here we have, despite such tragic losses, most Liberty ships operated throughout the war. Some people argued that the role these and other ships played in helping to turn the war in the Allies' favor should not be underestimated. The shipyards where the Liberty ships were assembled were often located in relatively low-income areas. The unemployment that the shipyards provided was a boon to local economies. A boon is a great benefit. So, yes, the Liberty ships were very vital to help the war effort, help Great Britain and European countries during the beginning of the war especially. Something else happened. They talk about something, a different area. They talk about the shipyards, where the ships were built. They had a benefit, right? So the benefit was, you imagine all these ships were needed. They needed people to build the ships. There's a local town where they build the ships. People are working more. They have more money to spend. So the whole economy where the ships were being built kind of was doing really, really well. Okay. So this is a continuation of this idea here. So continuation, let's think. An exchange, subsequently, on the contrary, or moreover. So on the contrary is an opposite. So what follows will be something different than what came before. That's not it. Right? Subsequently is like as a result. As a result of A, no, B happened. No. In exchange, very similar to something that's different, or in exchange for A, we're able to do B. So that's not correct. The correct answer is moreover, in addition, also. So not only did the leaderships help the Allies, it also helped the local area where there was a lot of low-income, communities. Okay? So that's how you want to tackle this. In this first passage, you should try to aim for all points. Okay? So going underground. So this is a story about the underground or subway in London. So again, I'm not going to read the whole thing. If you have time, pause the video. You can read it. Get the printouts available online. I'll have a link. Let's go. So again, let's not really go with the answers right now. Let's go with the title, Going Underground, and then the first sentence. In the mid-19th century, street congestion in London had, some argued, reached unacceptable levels. So street congestion, I think we heard about that before. Things are congested, compact, crowded. So imagine late mid-19th century, there might be a lot of people walking around, maybe some horses, beginning of, I don't know about cars. I don't know if cars are available there or not. Okay, so what's going to be happening? Let's take a look at this sentence. In historical terms, the Metropolitan Railway, as it was called, is seen as once completed, it became the world's first, first, that's a key word, underground railway line. After ferrying millions of passengers in the first year alone, that's a success. Its success helped kickstart the London Underground subway system. So they started building more lines to the subway. All right, so it was the world's first, and it was a success. Key words. Let's see. Cost saving, didn't save money. Waste of time and energy, no. And distract the public, no. A revolutionary step, that's the answer. So it was the world's first. Sometimes you do something the first. You're revolutionary. It's a amazing thing, a new trend. Okay, so revolutionary step, something new. All right, so now let's take a look at the second paragraph. Nevertheless, however, here's a problem. The project was, engineers had to ensure that tunnels, branch lines, arches, and maintenance access points were constructed precisely and safely. Though skilled, the engineers lacked the technology advanced devices that engineering firms possess today. So even though, it was a success, it wasn't without its problems. Let's see. Underfunded from the start, doesn't talk about money. Almost canceled, doesn't mention that. Moved to a safer location, imagine somebody can pick up a subway line and just move it to another area. It's like, I don't know, King Kong or Godzilla can do that, picking up. Very big. So I mentioned the project had problems. Another word for saying is obstacles. Not without. Two negatives, right? Not without is a positive. So that means the project had obstacles. Project had problems. Okay? Let's take a look at the next question, question 24. We'll start here. And then, since it's in the middle, we'll read a little bit at the back to after number 24. Today, subway projects often proceed deep underground with minimal disruption to people's lives. Right? You barely even notice the construction going on, many meters below you. Early subway tunnels were created in a less sophisticated way. Long holes were dug into the streets, then tunnels were built and covered with roadways. To facilitate such work, Parliament, that's the British government, politicians, granted land, sometimes in low-income or slum areas, to the construction companies. As a result, thousands of poor people were displaced. That means they had to leave their homes because they wanted to build a subway, and the way they did it back then is they built all on the ground and I think just dug down. They didn't dig, meters away and go under. They just dug on the surface. So if your home was here, tough luck. Bye-bye home. That's where they dug. So that was in the olden days. So let's think, okay? Today, subway lines proceed with minimal disruption, but this is something different. This is an opposite, right? The next part is different. So let's think. Consequently, as a result, likewise, in a similar way, on top of that, in addition to, nothing so far. In contrast. In contrast is a word, a phrase you use when you want to tell that something's different from this beginning to this section, okay? In contrast. All right, the next one's a little bit longer. Let's take a look if we can. Okay, so this is the next passage. It's a little bit longer, a little bit more complicated. Sometimes the questions are on the second page. So what I did here was just have a dual screen. So here you'll see, hopefully, the passage here and the question here. So again, don't focus on the whole passage. Don't read the whole thing. Just focus on the question that's being asked. And typically the question will be in order found in the passage. So the first question, you'll find the answer in the first paragraph, second question in the second paragraph, and so on, especially for this number 3 passage. Again, focus on the title, Measuring Intelligence. So measuring how smart someone is. The one way to do that is called the intelligence quotient, or commonly known as an IQ. It's claimed to be a numerical representation of a person's ability or intelligence. So a score, okay? So typically just read the title and the first sentence, get an idea of what the passage is about. Now turn to question 25. According to the first paragraph, what is true about Alfred Binet? What's true about him? So look for the name Alfred Binet. We can see it's mentioned here, okay? Alfred Binet is mentioned there. So what is true? Let's think. Alfred Binet was asked by the French government to create a test that could be used to identify children who needed educational support, okay? The Binet-Simon test that was created as a result provided the foundation for all IQ tests that have been produced since. Because they were a quick and easy way to categorize people, IQ tests soon became popular. Okay, that's enough. Again, you don't need to read the whole thing. So according to the first paragraph, what's true? Let's see. The test he developed was not initially intended to measure intelligence. No, because that's what they did. Intelligence in children. He lost his job with the French government. I didn't read that. He was not the first person to attempt to create a test. Well, let's see. The first IQ test they mentioned was developed by him, Alfred Binet. So he was the first person, okay? But other people have tried to develop them before, I guess. So what is typically true, or what's true about him was, he provided a foundation for all IQ tests that have been produced since. So the best answer for this is number 2. The test he designed became the basis for all IQ tests that have been developed since. Produced since, developed since, okay? That's what you look for that question. So if I can, let's see if I can go to question number 2. So I'll scroll down here. So scroll a little bit so we can see number 2. Yep, so that's the paragraph 2. Okay. Then at the bottom, let me try to see if I can scroll down to get paragraph number 20, question number 26. Okay, we can focus on that. So this is about a study in Canada suggests. Question 26, a study in Canada suggests. What does that study in Canada suggest? So we need to go back to the passage. This is passage 3, paragraph 2. Let's see, look for Canada. Don't need to read. Oh, however, a large-scale study carried out in Canada suggests that this model of intelligence is too simple. In a study which included over 100,000 participants, researchers asked subjects to answer questions on a range of skills. Now, some were better at answering the questions than others. Yeah, okay. But the researchers believe that this could be explained by considering 3 different parts of mental ability: short-term memory, reasoning, and verbal skills. So they think there is something else going on than just by measuring innate IQ. Okay? So now let's take a look, going back. Question number 26. A study in Canada suggests, right? That's what we're going to focus on here. Okay. What does it suggest, Canada? What are you suggesting? Let's try to figure this one out. All right. So is it suggesting, although intelligence consists of several different aspects, it's dependent on just one part of the brain? No, they didn't say that because they mentioned 3 things, right? So they thought short-term memory, reasoning, verbal. So it's not number 1. Is it going to be, while most IQ tests are based on valid research, the way they're carried out makes them ineffective? Doesn't mention that. Does it mention evidence from brain scans indicate there is less variation in people's intelligence? No. They were saying that, as expected, some participants were better at answering questions than others. So the best answer for this one is 3. IQ tests were designed based on a mistaken concept, that intelligence is a single ability that can be measured in isolation. So what they were showing, the Canadians were showing, these researchers, it's based on short-term memory, reasoning, and verbal skills. That's how they should be measuring intelligence. 3 different aspects, not just 1. Okay? So for 26, the correct answer is 3. So what we're looking at for question 27 is, what does the author of this passage say about gifted education programs in the U.S. schools? All right. So again, we don't really need to read everything, but let's try to think of what the author says about gifted educational programs. Oh, right there. Gifted educational programs. Okay. In U.S. schools, for example, children from ethnic minorities tend to be overlooked for these programs. One reason is that historically, candidates for such programs have been selected by referrals from other teachers. So the other teacher would recommend a student to enter this program. Studies have shown that academic performance and behavior of students are influenced by their teacher's attitude towards them. So if a teacher likes a student, the teacher may encourage that student to enter a gifted program, or may be inclined to encourage a student she or he likes to go to this program. So also it may be affected by a teacher's subconscious racial biases. So again, a preference for the teacher. If they like a certain student for a certain reason, they would recommend that student for this gifted program. Since the majority of teachers in the U.S. are white, students from ethnic minorities tend to have less chance of being selected for such programs. Okay, so let's try to think. What are they saying about the gifted educational programs in the U.S. for 27? IQ tests are being misused by teachers? No, they're not being misused. Let's see. Results of IQ tests provide little help predicting? No, not really saying that. Students from ethnic minorities tend to perform better? Doesn't mention that either. The use of IQ tests has given students from ethnic minorities a better chance of entering such programs. Okay. So what you want to do for this one is kind of focus on this part down here, actually. So the bottom part, it says, school districts where IQ tests have been used in the selection, not teacher recommendation. More students from ethnic minorities have been able to enter the programs. So using IQ tests as a basis for selection for entering these gifted programs has been successful. So supporters say it's a fair selection method because it provides an objective measure of ability. So for this one, the correct answer will be number 4, where it says the use of IQ tests have given students from ethnic minorities a better chance of entering these programs. It's more fair, objective. Okay? All right, I'll be back for the last passage. Okay, I'm back. This is the last passage of the Eiken Pre-1 test, and this is the hardest, I believe. That's 4 questions, and the content a little bit longer. But let's just tackle it the way we tackled the other questions. Focus on the title, Age and Innovation. Age doesn't mean old, it means a period of time. And innovation, something is, about technology innovation, new products are developed. Let's take a look at the first sentence. One benchmark that is used to measure technology progress is Moore's Law. Okay, read some more. This law, which was originally published by U.S. engineer and businessman Gordon Moore in 1965, states that the number of transistors on a microchip will double every 2 years. It's an idea. It's not really a law. Nothing made by government. It's an idea. So let's take a look at the question. What's one thing the author of the passage says about Moore's Law? Okay, we know one thing a little bit. Let's read a bit more. It's going to double in 2 years. It's a prediction regarding computer technology, but it's becoming a driving force behind progress in computer technology, blah, blah, blah. It implies computers will continue to become smaller and more powerful, okay? Because technology companies will start to plan their product development around this principle. So companies will believe in this idea that microchips will double every 2 years, the transistors. So that means they're getting smaller and smaller and more powerful, okay? And so nowadays, experts consider Moore's Law was responsible for different innovations over time, such as home computers, smartphones, and other new technologies, because companies wanted to build things more powerful and smaller so that we can use them in many different devices. All right, so did it overestimate the impact? No, it was responsible. Unlikely to be accurate in the future? Doesn't really say, but it implies computers will continue to become smaller and more powerful. Doesn't say about being unlikely. It not only predicted technology progress, but stimulated the development of new technology. Let's keep that. Could be. It was an effective way to predict advances in technology despite the fact it was intended for a different purpose? No. So the law was just saying that the number of transistors or microchips will double every 2 years. And other people use that to predict computer technology and other technologies. So it was effective in predicting advances in technology because that's what it was meant to do. So that's wrong. Number 1's wrong. Number 2's wrong. So the correct answer is 3. So it not only predicted technology progress, but it helped to stimulate this development. Okay? So right here, tech companies started to plan their development around this principle. That means to stimulate, to encourage. Okay? So let's take now a look at the second paragraph. So the second paragraph is what we're going to focus on. So I'll move that up. And now we want to go to question number 28. So question number 29. So I'll try to move that up. Good, yay. So this one here, 29. Now, I don't want to read all that. It's a lot to read, so let's focus on the question. A paper by researchers in the United States concluded that, researchers, let's see. Okay, right here. A paper by researchers from universities in the United States conclude, let's see what the conclusion is, the constant exponential growth implied by Moore's Law has been achieved only by a staggering increase in the amount of resources devoted to pushing the frontier forward. Resources means anything like time, money, people. In fact, the number of researchers required to maintain the same level of innovation today is around 75 times more than that in the early 1970s. So it's saying to make new advances in the past, it didn't take many researchers. 4 or 5 people could, build a new transistor. But now, since all the easy part has been done, it requires more and more experts and researchers to build an even higher level of technology. Also, similarly, there's a general trend in many areas of society. Well, this one is against not really the research. So let's just focus on this part, right? This part. All right, so 29, there's evidence to show that Moore's law can also be a useful tool in the field of politics. No, again, that's different. We don't want to focus on this. That's different. The amount of effort that is necessary for Moore's law to remain true has increased greatly over time. The amount of effort, the amount of resources that is necessary for Moore's law to remain true, to continue, has increased greatly over time. Right here, they conclude the constant exponential growth implied by Moore's law has only been achieved by the huge increase in the amount of resources developed to push blah, blah, blah. Okay, so correct answer here for 29 is 2. Right? In order for Moore's law to continue, you need more and more resources and effort. These 3 and 4, you don't need to read because that's down here. It doesn't have to do with the researchers. This is something different. Okay? All right. So that's it for question number 29. Again, we don't need to read this. Don't need to read a lot of the detail of these passages. So try to remember that as you're reading. It may look like a lot of words, a lot of English words, and may be difficult to think about, but really just focus on the most important parts of the passages. Okay, so let's try to get to question 30. Question 30 is going to be about the 3rd paragraph. That's what I was trying to go to. Okay, so the 3rd paragraph is here, about a theory. Before we read this whole paragraph, let's look at the question. What is suggested by the theory mentioned in the 3rd paragraph? So there's a theory mentioned, okay? Oh, right here. One theory mentioned to explain this tendency is the burden of knowledge. This states as more innovations are made, the amount of knowledge required to make new one grows. Right? So all the easy innovations are made in the beginning, and then what's left is the hardest ones that require more and more effort. Innovations occur as a result of using past knowledge to find solutions to problems. So each generation has to learn an increasing amount of previously accrued knowledge before it can begin to innovate for itself. So the more people have learned here, you got to learn this plus new information. New people have to learn that plus new, and then it keeps on going more and more and more and more knowledge. That's life. All right. So again, we don't need to read. We can read a little bit, but some studies in Germany showed that the average age of researchers in the field of math, when they published their first journal article, rose by 5 years. Right? So that means it's taken longer for people to write or publish their research because the easy research has already been done by people in the past. So you have to do more work to publish a good research paper in a journal. All right, so let's see what 31 says. What's suggested? Let's see. New innovations improve society, but the overall effect may not be positive long term. What? I'll see that. Number 3. The quality of journal articles in math has improved despite the fact that the field attracts fewer researchers. No, that's not the fewer researchers. It takes longer to do the research that can be published. That's true. Not true. Although researchers today are very knowledgeable, they are less skilled at applying their knowledge into practical solutions. No, it doesn't say that. Okay, so through a process of elimination, we know 4, 3, and 2 are wrong. So the possible only option left is 1. But let's read it. Breakthroughs in science and technology are becoming more difficult to achieve because of the continually growing pool of knowledge, right? So what you learned in the past, so now researchers have to learn this, new ones. And then the new researchers have to learn the old plus the new. And then the ones going forward have to learn the old, the new, plus something new. And then it gets added and added and added. You have Lego blocks, right? So the answer for number 30 is 1. Okay? All right. So we're coming to the last question for the reading. Yay. Okay. It should be this paragraph, paragraph 4. The question is going to be 31, the final paragraph. So let's focus on the question first. The question for 31 is, according to the final paragraph, what do some experts believe? Let's find out. Experts. Oh, here we are. Right? Just quickly glance. Look at the word experts. However, some experts believe the opposite may be true. Better diets, advances in medicine, and improved health care mean people today not only live longer, but also stay physically and mentally active into later age. In addition, because of their experience, older workers are more efficient and more productive than younger colleagues and play a valuable role in passing on knowledge. So these are factors that help promote innovation and counterbalance the effects of burden of knowledge. Okay? So here in the beginning, some people believe that aging workforce holds back new discoveries because older workers are less able to learn new skills and less willing to adopt new technology, new knowledge. Okay? So some people think that older workers can't learn new things and can't adapt, but other experts believe the opposite's true, right? Workers are staying healthier mentally and physically, they're more efficient, and therefore more productive. Let's see. So 31, mistaken idea about the effects of aging workforce leads to companies losing some of their most valuable employees. They don't believe that. A lack of government spending on healthcare will cause a rise in the number of older people to poor health. No, they're saying that many people are living longer and staying healthier longer. Because younger workers have to make up for the lower productivity of their older colleagues. No, they're saying the opposite. They're saying older colleagues are more productive. That's wrong. Rather than slowing down innovation, an aging workforce may make it more likely to happen. That's what it's implying, right? So experts believe that the older workforce may make innovation more likely, okay, because they're more efficient, more productive, and they play a valuable role in passing on knowledge. Okay, they're helping the younger workers get up to speed fast, so the younger workers can work well. Okay. So a lot of questions. I hope my explanation was clear. If you have any questions, please comment, and I'll be happy to try to answer them as best as I can. All right. Thank you.